Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another meal prep video. This week I am doing a lot of different things. I'm going to make some breakfast bowls for the work week as well as some burgers. I'm going to prep my produce, do some hard-boiled eggs, some Caprese salad, and then I'm also going to make some chocolate chip muffins for the kids and some lower carb granola. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just portion out some of this ground beef that I got from Costco into 1 pound packages and get that in the freezer. Typically we have a quarter beef in our freezer. We buy one usually once or twice a year depending on our needs. Someone that Adam works with raises cattle, and so we are able to get it from there. Typically that lasts us quite a long time, but we are actually out of ground beef right now, so it pained me to buy it at the store, but alas, I had to. So I went ahead and bought a really large package from Costco. I think this was around 7 pounds, and I split it out into 6 quart-size Ziploc bags. So each of these is a little over a pound, and then I'll just go ahead and put those in the deep freeze so we will have them ready for meals when we need them. If you are able to get beef from a local farmer like that, I really think it's the best way to go if your family eats beef. I have calculated it out before and it comes out to around $2 a pound. When we buy it this way, we get roasts, we get burger, we get steaks, basically anything you could want, and the price is so much better than the store and it tastes a lot better too. So one of the things that I'm going to do with one of these packages is make some hamburgers. I saw this on someone else's meal prep video here on YouTube. Amanda Seipert is her name. She does Weight Watchers meal preps, but I like watching her videos, and I'll leave a link to her channel down below. But basically I just thought I would prep some burger patties so that we could have them for lunches and dinners this week. So I'm going to use just one of those 1 pound packages, and these are going to be a little bit larger. I'm only splitting these up into 3 patties. So I'm just going to drizzle them with olive oil, and then I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of Worcestershire sauce on top, and then I'll just sprinkle them with salt, some onion powder, and a little bit of pepper, and then I can just flip them over and season the same way on the other side. So I'm just going to put these in a hot skillet and drizzle the rest of that sauce over the top. And basically you just want to cook these until they are about medium in the middle. If we were going to be eating them right away, I would probably cook them a little bit more, but since these are going in the refrigerator and we're going to reheat them at a later time, I didn't want them to be overcooked when we ate them later. So basically I'm just cooking them to sear the outsides, and then I'll go ahead and remove them to a tray that I have with foil, and then I'll just let them rest there on the counter until they're cool. Once they're cool, I can go ahead and put them into a container. I'm just using a Ziploc bag, and then we actually had these during the week. They worked out really well. I actually ate 2 of them for lunches, and Adam ate 1. We basically just ate them like a burger in a bowl, so like a low carb kind of burger salad, and they turned out really good. So the next thing that I'm going to work on is some roasted potatoes. I'm actually making these for dinner on this particular night. I believe this was a Saturday, and one of the things that I try to do for my meal prep to make it easier is try to incorporate things that I can use for meal prep into my regular dinners. So for example, on this particular night, we were going to have sausage and peppers and roasted potatoes. And I also knew that I wanted to make some breakfast bowls. Now for mine, I was trying to eat more low carb, so I didn't want any potatoes in mine, but the ones that I made for Adam, I did want to put some roasted potatoes in there. So I got these potatoes from Costco. They are a really good deal. I can't remember how many pounds is in this bag, but it was only around $5, and these potatoes are already washed, so you can skip that step. So basically what I'm doing is just cutting them up and putting them in a bowl. And once I get all of the potatoes cut up and into the bowl, I will go ahead and season them with olive oil and seasonings, and then I can roast them in the oven. I actually like to toss mine in a bowl before I pour them out on the cooking tray, just because I feel like it gets all of the seasonings more evenly distributed. But if you didn't want to dirty a bowl, you could probably just toss them all on the baking sheet as well. Okay, I lied. I guess I'm not using olive oil. I'm using avocado oil, but same difference. So I am just going to pour some oil over those and toss them with some of the 21 seasoning salute from Trader Joe's, as well as some salt. And once I get those all well combined, I'm going to pour them out onto a baking sheet. I'm using the largest one that I have, and I'm using one of these Silpat liners. I actually got these in a 3-pack from Costco. I'm really enjoying them. So I'm just going to spread those all out evenly, and then I will pop them in the oven and roast them. I'm going to roast these at 425 for about 25 minutes. I like my potatoes a little bit crispier, but it all just depends on your preference. So I think I put these in for 22 and actually put them in for another 10 minutes. But like I said, just keep an eye on them and take them out when you think they are done. So we're going to use part of these for dinner tonight, and the other part I will show you in a little bit what I do for the breakfast bowls. So for this night for dinner, I was making some sausage and peppers. So I just have a green pepper here. I'm going to cut that up into strips, and I will put that in the bottom of a baking dish and season that with olive oil and some salt. And then how I like to do it is just roast the sausages right on top of the peppers. So normally when I make these, I make like the whole package, and there's 5 in this package, and the kids usually don't eat very much of these. In fact, on this night, I was making them hot dogs instead. So I always have leftovers, and then I can just go ahead and throw those in meal prep containers for us for the work week. So I guess in addition to the salt, I also use some of the 21 seasoning salute from Trader Joe's. So I'm just going to go ahead and put those, these are actually smoked brats from Hillshire Farms, and I'm just putting those in the oven to roast. Here is a quick look at what they looked like when they are done. And then I also cooked up some hot dogs for the kids, and we had a few of those left over that I was able to meal prep too. So we actually only ate 2 of these, and I'm going to go ahead and just put them back out onto the cutting board so I can slice those up. But in this small glass dish, I'm going to put the roasted peppers, and then I can just put the sausages on top of that. And I'm also going to add some sauerkraut as well. And then Adam ended up taking these to work the next day. So this is just a good thing to keep in mind. If you're cooking already, either if it's on the weekend or during a weeknight, make a little bit extra, and then you have a meal ready to go for work the very next day. So these are just some hot dogs. I went ahead and cut these up. I figured that one of us could take them for lunch, or the kids could eat them. And actually Kira ended up eating these the next night for dinner. So that worked out just fine. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is just make some steamed broccoli. We were going to eat this for dinner that night, and then I also wanted to have some steamed up for meal prep, as well as a bag of raw broccoli that I could use either for snacking or other recipes throughout the week. So how I like to wash all my produce is in my OXO salad spinner. I'll leave a link to that in the description box below, but it's my favorite kitchen tool besides my knives for sure. And how I like to wash most of my produce is just put it in the salad spinner, and then I will soak it in cold water in the sink until it is clean, and then rinse it off, and then it's ready to go. Broccoli is definitely one of those things that you can prep beforehand. Cauliflower does really well in the fridge too. Carrots, any hearty vegetable like that. If you know you're going to cook it during the work week, it just saves time for me to do it on the weekend. I just usually wash it and make sure that it is mostly dry and put it in a Ziploc bag or a reusable bag, and then I have it for use during the week. So like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and soak this in cold water, and then once it's washed off, I will put it in a pot with a little bit of water and salt and steam it up on the stove for dinner. So here's the broccoli all steamed up. I also added some cheese and then the rest of our dinner. So for the rest of the broccoli, I'm just going to go ahead and put that into a Ziploc bag, and then we will have that for snacks throughout the week. I also wanted to get a cucumber sliced up. This is actually one that I had in the fridge from the week before, and cucumbers will actually stay good for a while if you leave them whole. What I find usually is once you cut them up is when they kind of start to go bad in the refrigerator. So my recommendation would be for cucumbers that they're really only good for a couple days once you cut them up. So once you do that, you just want to make sure that you use them so you're not wasting any. So this little snack box was actually going to be for Kira to take to school the following day. So I just went ahead and used some of those cucumbers in one section along with some Ritz crackers. And then I also put some pepperoni, and I'm going to slice up some cheddar cheese. These snack boxes are from Amazon, and I will leave a link to them down below. I really like them, and they save a lot of money when I'm making homemade Lunchables for the kids. So there is her little box to take for lunch tomorrow. I will also pack her a juice box and probably a granola bar and some yogurt to go along with that. So the next thing I'm going to work on is just putting my extra cucumbers away in the refrigerator. So I have these glass containers from Costco that I got there a while back when they were on sale. These do really well for storing produce. So I went ahead and put some of those in a container, and the rest that didn't fit I just put in a Ziploc bag. So I also got some berries while I was at Costco, and some of them were moldy, and so I was just picking those out. The rest of them I'm going to put in a strainer or in my salad spinner, and I will go ahead and soak those with cold water and a little bit of vinegar just to make sure that they are clean. This is how I like to clean my berries. I've been trying to do some research on the best way to clean produce, and there's actually not a whole lot of guidance out there, or I guess if there is guidance, there's really no studies to back it up, and that always kind of bothers me. Like, you'll see something that says research shows, blah, 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 but then there's really no literature or an academic study to back it up. But anyway, I did find some articles about how vinegar, that it's so acidic, is or does have some antibacterial properties, and so that's how I like to wash my berries. Basically, I just soak them in cold water with a little bit of vinegar and then rinse them off. And the vinegar is nice because it's it's food safe. So obviously if you ingest some, you're not going to get sick or anything like that. So for my strawberries, I'm just going to cut the tops off. These were a little sketchy as well. For some reason, the produce at Costco was not that great this week. So I'm just cutting off the tops, and I will go ahead and cut off any mushy or moldy or bruised parts. And then I am using a Rubbermaid produce keeper. I like to use these for all my produce in the fridge. And actually, once I cut these up, we ate on them for a couple days, but then they got a little bit mushy, and so I went ahead and just threw them in the freezer to use for smoothies. I usually try to do that with fruit or berries. Once they're starting to go south, I like to just put them in the freezer so that we don't waste any produce. I try really hard not to waste a lot of produce, and I know some people give me a hard time for cutting too much off of my strawberries, but to each their own. So the other thing that you want to make sure you wash really well is cilantro. I used to I used to be not that great about washing my cilantro, and actually it's really dirty. So same way with this, I don't use vinegar, but I just like to soak it in really cold water and then spin it dry. I'm actually going to use this cilantro for some pico de gallo that I'm going to make here in a second, and that will be to go with the breakfast bowls prep that I talked about a little bit earlier. Okay, so for my pico, I'm going to chop up some Roma tomatoes. I actually don't buy Roma tomatoes a whole lot. They're not really my favorite for eating, but for something like this where you're going to chop the tomatoes up really fine, they work pretty well. So I'm going to slice these up thin and then just dice them up into small chunks. So I'm also going to add some red onion. I like to chop this up pretty fine as well. So there is really not a recipe that I can share for this pico de gallo. I just always make mine with tomatoes, red onion, cilantro, and lime juice. You could definitely chop up some jalapeno in there if you wanted, or some other type of chili, but I just like to keep it simple. And then I also add salt and pepper as well. So this juicer that I have is one of my favorites. I got it on Amazon. I will link it down below if you're interested. But essentially, you just kind of throw everything into the bowl and stir it up. With the cilantro, I just like to chop it up as fine as I can. I love cilantro, and so I always put a ton of it in, but I know some people don't like it. You could try using flat leaf parsley instead if you're not a cilantro lover. So the other thing I'm going to add to this is just a little bit of garlic paste. This is totally optional, and if you don't have any, you can leave this out. I think it does give it a good flavor, but like I said, you could leave it out if you don't have any on hand. Connor appears to be eating that lime there. So the next thing that I'm going to make is some bacon, and this is going to be for the breakfast bowls as well. So when I'm cooking a large batch of bacon, usually I like to cook it in the oven. So I just have a sheet tray here with a rack that fits on top of it. I put a little bit of foil down just to make cleanup easier. And then I like to spray the rack with nonstick cooking spray just to make sure that the bacon doesn't stick. And then I just lay the bacon out. I try to put it as close together as I can so that I can get as much on the tray as possible. It will shrink up in the oven as it cooks, so when you take it out, it will not be touching like that. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the oven. I will cook this at 350 degrees. I went ahead and put it in for 22 minutes, but again, just keep an eye on it and cook it until your desired degree of doneness. And then also for the breakfast bowls, I'm going to go ahead and make some scrambled eggs. So I just have some brown eggs here. I'm going to crack them into my Pyrex bowl. I love this bowl. It's one of like the vintage Pyrex bowls with the spout and the handle. I actually got it at Goodwill, so I don't have a link for it, but it reminds me of one that my grandma always used growing up. So for the scrambled eggs, I'm going to put some sriracha in and some heavy whipping cream, salt and pepper, and then I'm just going to whisk that up really well and get it all incorporated. The more you whisk it, the more air that you'll incorporate into the eggs, and they'll be a little bit fluffier. So once that is done being combined, I'm just going to put it in a skillet. I just have some butter melted in the bottom of that skillet, and I'm just going to cook these eggs on medium heat until they are done. The slower you can cook them and kind of just move them around the pan, the fluffier they will be. I don't like runny scrambled eggs, so I definitely wanted to make sure that these were done, but you have to keep in mind that you're also going to be reheating this in the microwave. And so even if they're just a tiny bit underdone, they will get done the rest of the way when you heat them back up. Okay, so now I have all of the components done for the breakfast bowls. I'm going to go ahead and chop up the bacon. I just let that cool so that I could handle it. I'm just chopping that up into kind of bite-sized chunks so that I can incorporate them in with the breakfast bowls. And then once I get that chopped up, I can go ahead and start assembling. So like I said, for Adam's portions, I'm going to go ahead and use potatoes for his. So I split those up evenly. And then for mine, I'm just going to use the eggs, bacon, cheese, and the pico. So essentially I'm just layering them in the ones for him. I just put the potatoes on the bottom and then making another layer of scrambled eggs. And then on top of that, I will go ahead and put the bacon. Someone is touching my my tripod. I remember when I was doing this, like everyone was in the kitchen. So apparently people were bumping it. So I'm sorry about that. Okay, so once the bacon is on, I'm just going to go ahead and put some shredded cheese on the top. You could use any shredded cheese. The portion that I made for myself was rather large, and I actually ate on that for 3 days at work. So then the last thing I'm going to do is just put in a little cup of that pico. You could use reusable containers. I get comments on that a lot, and I do have reusable containers that are like little dressing cups like this. You can get them at Dollar Tree, but sometimes it's just easier to use the disposable ones, and I find those on Amazon. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 of those little portions of pico in mine since it was more than one serving. And then here is a look at the completed breakfast bowls. So these turned out really good. I would totally make them again. I really like those breakfast bites or the sous vide bites that I make every week, but this was a good break from that because we were getting a little bit tired of them. So yeah, if this seems like something you'd like, I would totally recommend making them. They turned out really good. The next thing that I'm going to do is just prep some shredded chicken. I got this rotisserie chicken at Costco on the previous day, and I didn't really have any plans for it, but I always like to get one when I'm there because it seems like they have the best price on rotisserie chickens, and they are always huge. Sometimes I get rotisserie chickens at Hy-Vee, and they'll charge like $7 or $8, and they're like half the size of this one that I can get from Costco. So you can actually see before I started cutting into it that Connor had like ripped off part of the chicken breast when I got it home from the store. So anyway, I'm just going to pick all the meat that I can off of this, and I will shred that up and put it in one of these reusable bags. I get these from Grove Collaborative. I really like them since I'm trying to cut down on disposable plastic bags. So we didn't actually end up using this during the week. We kind of ate on it a little bit. I put some into my salad one day, and then the kids took some in their lunch one day, but most of it actually got put into the freezer. And so that's fine with me. I can actually pull it out and make like a chicken tortilla soup or chicken Alfredo, or basically anything that you want to use cooked chicken for. So I'm fine with that. As long as I know that it's in the freezer and I can use it for another use, we're not going to waste it. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue picking all of the chicken off. And then one of the things that I wanted to do with the carcass of the chicken was to freeze it to make chicken stock. So I watched Kim over at Frida Family. She has a great channel where she shares a lot of frugal tips and food tips. And one of the things that she shared is that she saves all of her rotisserie chicken carcasses in the freezer, as well as her vegetable scraps, and makes chicken stock out of them. So I'm planning on doing that once I get enough scraps built up. So I'm excited about that. So there is the chicken carcass that is out in our deep freeze right now. And then again, there is the chicken all ready to go for us this week. So one of my other favorite things to make out of that chicken is chicken salad. I love chicken salad. So that's another use for that if you're wanting one. All right, so another thing that I was going to make this week for dinner was a roasted veggies to go as a side. And like I said, cauliflower is one of the things that you can definitely cut up beforehand, and it will stay for about a week in their fridge, actually. I got kind of gypped on this head of cauliflower. I feel like it was a lot of leaves and not a lot of cauliflower. So you saw how I did that, just basically quartered it and cut away the core. And then I will just put the florets in my salad spinner and soak those with some cold water and drain them until they're clean. And I will also prep some other vegetables as well. I had, I believe, a red pepper, as well as a yellow squash, and I'm going to chop up some of the zucchini as well. So I will just go ahead and chop these up. I'll put them all in a Ziploc bag, and then when I'm ready to roast them during the week, all I have to do is just dump them out on a sheet tray, season them with olive oil and whatever else I want to season them with, and then I can roast them in the oven, and it's a super quick, healthy, easy side for dinner one night during the week. Okay, so one night this week I was going to make spaghetti, and I usually like to have Zoodles instead of pasta. And so I just have this Veggie, I think it's called. I got mine at Walgreens, but you can find it on Amazon. It's super easy to use, very inexpensive, and I just went ahead and did one zucchini since I would probably be the only one eating it. This is another thing you can make in advance. I would say the Zoodles stay good for about 3 to 4 days in the fridge. And if you don't use them right away, you can also freeze them as well. So then I also took the extra zucchini scraps and just put those in the bag along with my other veggies. Another thing I wanted to do for this week was just do some salad prep. This is a bagged salad that I got from Costco. I believe it's the cherry almond blue one. And this one was okay. I didn't really think that it was that great. Adam for sure did not like it because he doesn't like blue cheese, but I took these to work during the week and I only ended up eating about half of each one. I'm not sure what it was about this. I think it was like the mix of lettuces that was in here. I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan, like I said, of bagged salad. I would rather make my own lettuce and chop it up and make my own salads. That way I know what's in them and I know that the lettuce is good quality. But anyway, on this also it had blue cheese, I think like some crispy onions and some cherries and some nuts maybe. And then I also had some additional blue cheese in the fridge that I needed to use up, and so I went ahead and crumbled that on there as well. For the dressing, I'm just portioning that out into 3 of those little dressing cups, and then I will pack those in with the salads. So this is a good idea if you can find a salad that you like or a bagged salad that you like to pre-portion these out to take to work during the week. It really cuts down on the prep time for lunches. So like I said, I really love to wash my own lettuce. I don't know why. It's just something that is like therapeutic for me. I don't know. I'm a weirdo, but I had some romaine lettuce actually left over from the week prior, just one head. And then this one I actually got at Walmart and it was super dirty. The outside leaves did not look that great. So normally if that's the case, I try to pull off some of those that are like bruised and damaged, and then I just cut up the rest of them. So I'll just chop this up. I try to cut it both lengthwise and crosswise so that the pieces of lettuce aren't super huge. And then I will squeeze a lemon into the lettuce. And then you can see here after I washed it, look at that water. Gross. Look how dirty it is. So that is why you guys need to wash your produce. I'm a huge advocate of washing produce, and this is why. So once that is all washed up, I will just spin it dry, and then I like to use the Rubbermaid produce keepers for my lettuce as well. I use one of the larger size ones, so I'll just go ahead and pour that into the container, and then I also like to put a dry paper towel on top just to soak up any excess moisture, and that will be good in the fridge for this week. Okay, so next I'm going to prep some Caprese salad. So I'm just washing up my tomatoes in some cold water, and then I'm going to slice those up and layer them in this Pyrex dish. Caprese is one of those things that you probably don't want to make much more than a day or two in advance. It's fine if it sits in the fridge for a while, but the cheese kind of gets mushy and the tomatoes get mushy. So it's really best if you can eat it in a day. I would say 2 at the most. We were actually going to eat this or part of this for dinner one night, and then I was going to use the rest for meal prep for lunches. So how I'm making it this time is just slicing up my tomatoes or chunking them up. I'm really not paying too much mind to how I'm cutting them up. And then I went ahead and put those in a glass bowl along with some salt, pepper, some olive oil, and a little bit of balsamic. You don't have to use the balsamic. I like it in my Caprese, but it's totally personal choice. So then I'll go ahead and add some sliced mozzarella cheese and then some olive oil, some salt, pepper, and then I'm going to tear up some basil in there. This is actually probably the last time I'm going to be able to get fresh basil from my herb pots out on my back deck, so I'm kind of sad about that. Here in Iowa, it is starting to get colder and we are dipping down into the 40s at night, and so I'm probably going to be scrapping that for the year, but next year I will definitely plant more. So then I'm just going to basically keep layering this. So more tomatoes, salt, pepper, a little bit of balsamic, basil, cheese, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm just going to finish up this salad. This is one of my favorite salads, and I could probably eat caprese every single day if someone would let me. So the next thing that I wanted to make ahead was some hard-boiled eggs. I'm using my Instant Pot for this. How I make them is I use the 5-5-5 method. So I just put my trivet down there along with a cup of water, and then I'm going to put in some eggs. You want to cook these on high pressure for 5 minutes, and then once they are done cooking, you do a natural pressure release, so just let the Instant Pot sit for 5 minutes, and then once that's done, you can go ahead and let the rest of the steam out. Once you open the pot, take out the eggs and put them in a ice water bath for 5 minutes. Normally I let them sit for longer than 5 minutes. I probably usually let them sit around 10 to 15. But this helps the shells come off super easily. I love using the Instant Pot to boil eggs. I'll probably never go back to any other way. It's just the shells come off so easily. It's just super awesome. So how I like to peel my eggs, and I think I've shared this before, is I just put a bowl of clean water on the counter next to where I'm peeling, and I like to peel everything on top of a paper towel just so it can kind of soak up the water and catch the shells. So I'll just gently take the shells off, rinse them off in the cold water, and then keep on peeling them. So for a couple of these eggs, I'm just going to put them in the refrigerator whole, and then we can take those to work for breakfast or snacks during the work week, or the kids can take them in their lunchbox. And then for the other hard-boiled eggs, I'm actually going to prep some deviled eggs. We didn't really have a plan for these, but we can always use them as a side for dinner or take them for lunches too. So I do have a deviled egg platter, but it holds like quite a few deviled eggs, and since I wasn't making that many, I just decided to use a regular Tupperware. I don't have a recipe for this. This is just kind of how I make my deviled eggs. You can make them any way you want. I just mash up the yolks. I put in a little bit of yellow mustard, a little bit of dill relish. I also put in a tiny little bit of Splenda for some sweetness, some mayo, and some salt and pepper. And I just combine the yolks along with the seasoning and the mayo really well. And then once that's combined, I just taste it, make sure that the seasoning is right, and then I'll go ahead and fill them. If I'm making a huge batch of deviled eggs, I'll actually use a Ziploc bag and cut the corner off to kind of pipe the yolks in. But since I was making a smaller batch, I just went ahead and used the spoon, and it worked out just fine. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to prep is some of this beef-free, gluten-free, grain-free Warrior Mix, and I'm going to make this into granola. This is a new company, and they sent me some samples to try out, and this original flavor I really do like. I think it's a good alternative to regular granola, especially if you're looking for something more low carb. So what I decided to do with this was just crumble it up and put it in the oven and toast it for a little bit. That way I could use it as granola on my yogurt parfaits during the week. So I probably got this batch a little bit crispy, but it still tasted fine, and this was actually delicious. I had it for breakfast a couple times this week. I used it with some low carb granola as well as some berries. It was really good. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to prep is some chocolate chip muffins. These are going to be for the kids. This recipe book is from America's Test Kitchen, and it's the complete cookbook for young chefs. I will leave a link to it on Amazon down below. I think you can pre-order it right now. I actually pre-ordered it directly from America's Test Kitchen, but I love their show on PBS. I have many of their cookbooks, and I also subscribe to their magazines as well, and their recipes are always really good. So for this recipe, I will type it out in the description box below if you're interested. This made really good, moist chocolate chip muffins. And my kids like to eat those for breakfast, but I don't always like to buy the packaged kind just because you don't know what's in there and they just can't be that healthy. But at least if I'm making them at home, I know exactly what goes into them. And I know that they're a little bit healthier than buying the processed version. The other thing that these would be great for is to use up any extra yogurt or sour cream that you have lying around in your fridge. Sometimes I'm one of those people that buys way too much yogurt. And so since this recipe calls for 1.5 cups of yogurt, this would be a great way to use up anything that is in your fridge. So I went ahead and whisked the dry ingredients together, and then I will go ahead and whisk the wet ingredients together. And basically, like any muffin recipe, after you get everything combined, you just combine the wet with the dry ingredients. And then I used mini chocolate chips for this. The original recipe was actually a blueberry muffin recipe, but they had a variation for chocolate chip muffins. And so I just used the mini semi-sweet chocolate chips. So I'm going to combine that. And then once I get it all combined, I will put it in my muffin tin. So I'm going to go ahead and use some silicone muffin liners, but I actually used some paper liners and it worked out just fine. So I think the original recipe said that this would make 12 regular sized muffins, but I actually got, I think, how many did I get? 17 or 18 out of this, and I made them really big. So that's one thing that I think is not correct with the cookbook. I could definitely have half this recipe if I wanted to, but no worries, my kids ate them all. So, and this is kind of a thicker batter, just so you're aware. I'm just using a couple spoons to portion this out into the muffin tin liners. And then since I had extra, I just sprayed the other two with cooking spray and put those in. And then you'll also see me getting out just a 6-tin muffin tray and filling that one up as well. So these were really good. I just kept them in a Tupperware on the counter. I didn't personally eat any, but my kids ate through them. They had a couple for breakfast each morning along with some fruit. I know that Kira took some for snack a couple days, and Connor ate them for after school snacks too. So this is a really great recipe. It's something that your kids could definitely help you make too in the kitchen. And like I said, there's a couple different variations. So you could do like the banana nut ones or the chocolate chip ones or the blueberry ones, whichever you wanted. So once I got these filled up, I will go ahead and pop them in the oven and let them cook until they are done. I have a convection oven, and so sometimes I have to adjust the temperature and the baking time. Sometimes I turn the temperature down 25 degrees just so things don't burn. But I'm cooking these at 375 for 19 minutes, and then I will check them. I think they were done by that time. So I let them cool off, and then I'm just going to put them in a Tupperware. This is an old one that I have from Walmart. I got many years ago, but it's like a 13x9 size, so it's great to hold things like this. And then I can keep them out on the counter, and the kids can just grab one for breakfast or whenever they are hungry for a snack. So yeah, I would totally recommend this recipe. Like I said, they turned out really good. Okay, so we are at the end of our meal prep. This one was not for the faint-hearted as I did it over several days, but it was great to have everything in the fridge ready to go. So just to recap, I have my lettuce all washed up, my Zoodles, my mixed veggies that are ready to roast this week. I prepped my 3 salads that I can take to work for lunch. I got that salad mix from Costco. I also prepped my berries, so my raspberries and my strawberries. There's some steamed broccoli along with the raw broccoli that I prepped. There is our Caprese salad that is ready to go. Also my hard-boiled eggs and my deviled eggs. Those turned out really good. My sliced up cucumber. And then here are my breakfast bowls. So we got the potatoes, eggs, bacon, and cheese. And then I left the potatoes out of mine along with the pico de gallo. I have my shredded chicken from Costco all ready for us to use. And then my burgers, I just have those in a Ziploc bag. Also my granola from Be Free. I will leave a link to their products in the description box below. And then the chocolate chip muffins for the kids. So that is it for this week. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any suggestions for further meal prep videos, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in my next video. Bye.